Rob, I want to bring you back in here. If all goes according to plan, just like the Fed would want, what does a quarter-point cut do for the economy? What does it stimulate?
I mean, it's got to help on the margin, right? The sign and direction has to be correct. But we talked about the end of QT earlier and that 1 basis point of helping. Think of 25 basis points cut in that same direction. It's better than a 0 for stimulus, but it doesn't do much.
And that brings us back to shock and awe, Adam Shapiro.
Shock and awe, Shapiro.
Shock and awe. You know, the statement he made that stuck out to me was no sector is booming and might bust. So credibility there for Esther George, who's probably going to give him a tongue lashing at Jackson Hole and Eric Rosengren. But, you know, this is a little inside baseball. One of the first things I had to read years ago when having to cover some of the stuff the Fed does was this paper about when there's when they see a balloon or a bubble rather, they had actually had a policy where better to let it pop and then clean up. It's easier to clean up after it pops than to prevent it. So I'd love for someone to have followed up and said to him, what did you mean by nothing is, you know, booming or might bust? Another
good line that he had, I thought, was there are very few things I don't worry about. You know,
one of them's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, one of them is there. Obviously, he's trying to manage that relationship as best as possible by seemingly not really addressing it head on.
It's just still curious to me, you guys. I mean, this 25 basis point cut, Rob was saying it really doesn't do much for the economy specifically, not for consumers and not for businesses either, really, because rates had already declined. In other words, it's also baked in. I guess he had to do it because he telegraphed it and the markets would have erupted and the business would have revolted and all that. And then why? And then where do we go from here? It's all very curious.
But remember, come back to their view that we were talking about earlier. They view this as they were going to hike 50 basis points this year. They've now cut 25. We're talking about 75 or 100 basis points of easing. It's a lot. Now, to us and to anybody else out there in the economy, it doesn't feel like a 75. But that's how they think about it.
And they also keep using this comment, sustain the recovery. Kudos to Brian Chung. They first used that line in the interviews he did in Chicago about sustaining the recovery.
That's right.
Well, that is what they see as their job here. Use that term a lot, and also I kept hearing mid-cycle constantly. So now I feel really good that I know where I am.
We were looking at each other like mid-cycle.
It's like a new washing machine.
Now I know where I am.
Halfway through, so 20-year expansion.
Mid-cycle,
I'm waiting for the spin cycle.
Now we know.